What's good, Raider Nation? It's your boy Sanjit back at it with another video. Today I have a special guest, have my man read the tape. What's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Been a while, but we in here, man. What's going on?
Yeah, man, absolutely. It's crazy because we've been trying to link up, and obviously things have been kind of crazy for myself, and we haven't been able to get together. But I'm really glad we're finally able to get together. It's been a couple of weeks. It might have even been over a month at this point.
Yeah.
But I'm excited, man. There's so much to talk about. There's so much Raiders news and things that have kind of happened. And let's be honest, man, like I believe we're like 5-2 last time we spoke, and like things are much different today, man. Much different. I'm excited, man. I'm very, very excited. Shout out to everybody that's here. Shout out to Cruise Control, who just became a member to the channel. Really appreciate it. Yeah, man. What's going on with you though, man? How you feeling about this Raiders team?
Well, first off, I gotta say congrats on little tour.
Thank you.
Welcome to a little tour to the family and to the Raider Nation. I'm good, man. But how was your holidays though? How was your holidays?
Yeah, I knew it's crazy because obviously I live in San Francisco. Family's from the Sacramento area. I'm actually back here to the Sacramento area, and I'll probably be spending the holidays here.
Okay.
Which means that the internet might not be the same, man, because I pay for like the most expensive internet out there because I go live, right? You got to make sure the videos are live. I don't know what kind of internet my brother has here, man. So we'll find out, obviously, if it lags or we have any issues. I have my phone right here. I can always, just get connected to that and hop onto that. But hopefully it works out well, man. But the season's not over for the Raiders, although it looked at one point like it was. We're right there, man. How do you feel about this team? I just want to get your thoughts on this team, and then we're going to get into it, man. We're going to talk a lot about where we're at, and we're going to talk about Derek Carr, man, and kind of how his performance has been. How do you feel about this team?
I still feel pretty much the same, like at the beginning of the season. I was thinking 9-8, 10-7 was going to be our record with the wild card spot. So I still feel the same. I still feel the same about the season, especially the way the division is panning out. We're more than halfway through the season, really, and we're all pretty much even. So it just shows how tough our division is, and that's pretty much where I am with it, man. There's a lot of stuff to cover, because so much has happened with the wide receivers, the coach, like you said, Derek Carr, the defense changing, and the offensive line. We got to talk about that. So there's a lot to go on, but I still feel pretty much the same. I still feel like wide receiver is a weakness in our team, offensive line still a weakness, and I felt that way before the season started. And pretty much defensive tackle. But I like where we're at. I know it's been a tough season, but I'm still optimistic. At all people, I am optimistic, yes.
Absolutely. I agree with you because the season's not over, right? And I know, especially on Twitter, man, I'm very active on Twitter. So many people killed the Raiders, once 5-2, and then we dropped 5-5. People were over this team. People were giving up on this team.
Yeah.
But the teams we lost to weren't terrible teams, right? Like by no means, right? The Bengals are in the playoffs. The Chiefs will be in the playoffs. The Giants, in my opinion, are much better than their record indicates. I think they have some coaching issues, but the team is not a bad team. The Raiders, on the other hand, I think we're a playoff team. I think we can absolutely get into the playoffs, make a Super Bowl run, potentially. Obviously, I don't think this team, we'd have to get lucky to win a Super Bowl at this point with this current team, but we're not that far away. And I say that because if you look at some teams that have won, right, teams that don't have top-tier quarterbacks, right, it's always a defensive line that carries those teams, right? You look at the Eagles that won a couple years ago, is that defensive line. The Niners got to the Super Bowl just, I think, 2 years ago. It was that defensive line.
Yeah.
It's the defense line, in my opinion, that if you don't have a top-tier quarterback or like an offense in general that can really lead a team, it's the defense line that carries teams. And the Raiders have probably the best pass rushing duo from the defensive end spots in the entire league.
Yeah.
So when you consider all those things, I don't think the Raiders season should be over, right? If you get hot at the right time, you can win a Super Bowl, right? Was it the Giants that like 2 times that they won the Super Bowl, they're like 7-9, 8-8 or something, barely getting into the playoffs, and then they went in to win a Super Bowl, and it was behind that defensive line, that pass rush, right?
Yeah.
You know what's interesting is I was watching one of your live videos, and it was recent, and you're talking about the defense.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it, but the defense is ranked like 30th right now in points per game, which is crazy. How do you feel about the defense? And do you think they're actually the 30th best defense?
No, I don't think that. I think they're better than 30th for sure. I like the defense, but I don't think they're as good as everybody thinks.
Yep.
Is just, we still have a lot of issues that we need to cover up, especially in the run game, discipline, getting penalties on 3rd and longs. Like we did that, I think 3 in a row. Like we did that 3 times in a row in one game, in one series, like one drive. We got 3 penalties, I think it was. So that's pretty tough. But I do think we're still the middle of the pack defense, most definitely. I don't know what it is, but we let up in the 4th quarter on the defense.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter if we're winning, if we're losing, we just let up points, in the 4th quarter. So that's a big issue of mine as well.
Yep.
But I think we're a middle of the pack defense, though.
No, that happened against the Denver Broncos and the Philadelphia Eagles. Like we had blown those teams out, and I believe each of those teams scored at least 1 touchdown, if not more, when the game was clearly over.
Yeah.
But I agree. Dominique here says the defense is still not good. And I don't think it's, when you compare, like I watched the Cowboys last night, and the Cowboys defense won them that game, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it wasn't the offense as well. The offense obviously scored points, but the defense had like 4 interceptions against Taysom Hill.
Yeah.
The Raiders don't get interceptions. Like, we get 1 interception every like 3 games or something like that. Right? Like, could you imagine if like we had a corner that had 9 interceptions, like Diggs has for the Cowboys? And there's other teams too, right? Like the Patriots force turnovers, right? And it's like the Raiders are definitely better on the defensive side of the ball, for sure, right? Compared to last year and the year before, we're definitely better on the defense side of the ball. But we're still not that good, right? We're not great. Like our defense will never win us games, right? No. They might keep us in a game, but they'll never actually win us a game.
Yeah.
And I almost feel like for the Raiders, we're definitely headed towards the right direction. But do you think Gus Bradley's the type of coach that can have a defense that's actually going to win you games? Because I almost feel like he's not that type of coach to build those type of defenses.
I think when it comes to Gus Bradley, he needs big time playmakers in order for that to happen. Just the way he is, like you would need a Bosa to where he could get a sack in that last drive of the game to kind of close it out. Yep. And we have a good. You mentioned the defensive line and our pass rush. It's just they don't come up with those plays. I feel like when the game is on the line, you have to get that. Yannick would have to get that strip sack fumble at the last drive of the game so we could recover and then just go out and knee it. Those kind of plays from the defense is what we would need, and I think that's the main thing Bradley misses in his defense is that guy that's going to be clutch and go out there and make that catch for the interception, right? Because you mentioned interceptions. Our guys will go out there and do it. It's like they're right there, right? I've seen Levitt do it, Myrick, Casey Hayward. They go out there and boom, it hits them right in the hands, or they jump the route, whatever it is, right? They do a pretty good job making a play, but then they just don't catch the damn ball.
Exactly.
And we're 31st in interceptions. We only have 4 interceptions on the season. That puts us 31st. So that right there, to me, is just telling me that we're just not getting enough turnovers. Especially when I hear that we're on the field a lot. People say we're on the field a lot, blah, blah, blah. That means we should have more stats. We should be able to stat pad at that point, That means at least some point in the game you get a turnover, an interception, something if you're out on the field that much. But at the same time, I think we need to just make those plays when the time arises, right? Dropping interceptions, that right there is tough. So, like I said, we're middle of the pack. I feel like we're middle of the pack. And the run game, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, we still need a defensive tackle that's going to be able to help the run game. Hankins can't really do it all by himself. Say he picks up 2 guys, we need another person that's going to have to get picked up by 2 guys. So we can make those kind of plays. So,
what's crazy is we talked about this in the draft, or when the draft was coming around. I said the Raiders need to take Christian Barmore, right? And I was pounding the table for Christian Barmore. I said the guy's going to be a superstar. He's going to be a difference maker. And he's already proving to be that. Obviously, we'll see how his career ends up. But if you look at what he's doing in this year, you can argue that he's one of the top 4 or 5 rookies on the defense side of the ball. Right? I mean, maybe right after Michael Parsons, you can argue he is the next best defensive rookie. Maybe I'm missing someone out there, but
some people like Javon Holland, but
yeah, he's good too, right? He's definitely good too. But Christian Barmore is a defensive tackle. Defensive line impacts the game, especially defensive tackle impacts the game more so than than other positions. Instead, the Raiders went with the guard, right? With the 17th overall pick, we decided to take an offensive guard, and those are the types of decisions that really are setting us back, right? It's mind-boggling to me that you're saying we need a defensive tackle, we need some, we need to get a little bit better, especially against the run, and I totally agree with it. And there's been guys that we could have potentially taken. Sometimes I don't know like what qualifies some of these guys that make these decisions, because they're making these terrible decisions, like Cleveland Farrell, Damon Arnett, and then obviously Alex Edwards. Not saying that he's a terrible pick, but he hasn't panned out yet.
It's not to cut you off, but I just made a post just the other day, and it's funny because I'm like, imagine if we had Barmore and Merrick, right? You take Merrick, you take Barmore with that first pick, and you still trade up to get Merrick. How much better would the future of this defense look? So and you wouldn't really have a drop off if you would have just get a veteran to replace Leatherwood's play. I feel like
absolutely. I mean, if Brandon Parker was going to be our right tackle anyways, like I'm fine with anyone else at right guard. Like a guard does not matter as much, right? As a tackle or a center, right? Centers, tackles matter more than guards. And Alex Leatherwood's nothing special, right? And again, the hope is that next year he'll transition back to right tackle. At least that's what my hopes is for him. Because Brandon Parker's not it, and Brandon Parker's in his final year, right? We're likely not going to extend Brandon Parker. And I'd be surprised if we brought him back. I guess it also depends if Tom Cable's the offensive line coach, because Brandon Parker's his guy. But I mean, something has to change, man. And I don't know if it's Mike Mayock that made that decision to take Alex Leatherwood. I know Tom Cable probably had his decision or his input as well, as did John Gruden. But at what point, like, do we put the blame on Mike Mayock for some of these mistakes, right? Because you can argue that the 2018 first-round pick in Colton Miller was better than all the other first-round picks after that. Like, in my opinion, the only first-round pick, and you can even make the argument against it, that's been legit is Jonathan Abram, right? Outside of Jonathan Abram in the first round, we really haven't hit on anybody else.
Would you consider Jacobs?
I don't even think Jacobs is that good, to be honest, or at least he hasn't proven to be that good. And you can blame the offensive line, sure, but Josh Jacobs just doesn't have that explosive ability. Even last year or his rookie year, he never breaks the 50, 60, 70-yard touchdown run. He doesn't have that in his game. And if you're going to take a guy in the first round, like Jonathan Taylor's the best running back in the league, or one of the best running backs, and he was a second round pick, I believe. It's different, and I believe in that same draft where Josh Jacobs got picked, I believe it was Miles Sanders and Montgomery, right? David Montgomery, the other guys that were picked.
And Miles Sanders went 53rd in the draft,
and Montgomery went after, right?
Yeah,
you can argue Montgomery's the best running back out of those guys. And I know he hasn't been healthy. You can even make the case for Miles Sanders, and I know he hasn't been that good this year either. But like, it's not clear cut that Josh Jacobs is better than those guys. But what is clear is Josh was the first round pick, and those guys weren't, right? And I don't know. It's very questionable to me. You could have taken so many other guys with that pick that we took. Josh, was it the 24th overall pick? I believe Montez Sweat might have still been on the board at that point, among some other players. But before we keep going forward, man, hit that thumbs up button if you guys can. I would really appreciate it. Almost 200 of you guys are here. I typically don't go live on random days like today, but Raid, I don't know if you know this, but I'm making the transition to being a full-time YouTuber, full-time content creator.
Okay.
So that's that's been my passion. I've thought about it for a while now, but I think within the next
man.
Thank you. Within the next couple of months, man, that's my goal, is to just be a full-time content creator. But yeah, man,
dope.
The defense,
I'm glad, because hopefully that means we could do a lot more collabs and all sorts.
No, absolutely. It's crazy because every time you hit me up, it's like I'll see your text like 30 minutes later because I'm like driving or I'm doing this, and I always feel like, damn, you always come on to my show, and I've never been able to as much come back on your show. But definitely, my schedule now, at least for the next couple of weeks to months. So I'll be coming on your channel. So if you guys aren't subscribed, man, make sure you guys check out Raid the Tape's channel. It's literally just Raid the Tape. But let's switch topics a little bit, man. because I got to ask you about Derek Carr, and I want to get your thoughts on this.
Yeah.
I kind of know your thoughts because, believe it or not, I watch every single one of your live videos. I'm always tuned into it, and I always hear, and I always want to comment. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But I got to get your thoughts on Derek Carr because you know my stance. I'm very critical of Derek Carr, and again, I don't hate Derek, right? I still love Derek. He's a great person. He's a great person you want to lead a team. But I've been very tough on Derek, right? I believe that Derek Carr at times can play better. At times, he's the reason why we lose games.
Yeah.
You know, and I put the blame on Derek Carr. And I know that may be unfair, right? Because you know, for a quarterback to have success, you got to have other pieces around you as well. But how do you feel about Derek Carr? And like, what are your thoughts right now? Like, is he the Raiders' long-term quarterback or is he not?
It's hard to say because you have I think at this point in Derek Carr's career and the way his contract is with the team, you could take a step back and say you have multiple options, right? You could stick with Carr. You had, like I said, multiple options. You could go get a quarterback that could sit behind Carr for a year. I mean, Carr's still on a relatively cheap contract. If you wanted to get a rookie and he could just sit behind Carr for a year and then move on at that point, right? Or even trade Carr, say, at a certain time of the season before the trade deadline and get some capital, something, and if you did it like that, or if you just played Carr to see what he does next year, and if you don't like him, then you just let him ride his contract out and you go draft the guy, right? And that'll give you time to build the team even more. So I think it just depends on whoever comes in and really wants to, whatever they want to do at that point. But how I feel about Carr, personally, I'd keep Carr. I think it's going to be too. I think right now there's nobody. It would just be too hard to say, okay, we're going to go get this guy. He's going to be better than Derek Carr. And not only that, I just don't feel like we have the team. It's not even so much about Derek Carr. I just feel like, why go get a quarterback and bring him into this kind of situation when you could just let this guy ride it out? Even if I wanted to get rid of him, what I would do is just let him ride the contract out, build the team. You got cap next year. You have your draft picks. You go build your team. You go get a defensive tackle. You go get more weapons at wide receiver. Personally, if we could figure it out somehow to sign both, I would want to get Devontae Adams and Michael Gallup because I think we need two proven wide receivers. I think that's just how the league is. And especially if you bring in a rookie quarterback, you'll have Drake, you'll have Jacobs, you'll have two proven wide receivers. It'll give you time to get a veteran lineman, a defensive tackle with your draft picks and your capital. And then after the next year, then you go get your guy, and then he'll be plugged in, rookie quarterback contract. You're not paying a guy $30 to $40 million. You're right there. You could just ride it out. And if he doesn't work out, then I guess you're back on the roller coaster. But at that point, you have a team that's pretty legit.
Here's one of I do agree with a lot of what you're saying, right? Because that is logical and it makes sense, right? That is how you could potentially build a team. But I will also make the opposite argument. With Derek Carr, we're always going to win anywhere from 6 to 9 games, right? We'll always continue to win that. So what that means is the Raiders will never have a top 5 pick, right? We'll always have anywhere from 10 to 17, so somewhere in between that. And for the Raiders, will you be able to get a quarterback with that, right? And it makes you think, like, you look at the Detroit Lions as an example. They weren't winning with Matthew Stafford. And they got rid of him in this offseason, and they're going to have the number 1 overall pick, right? I don't think they've won any games yet this year. So they'll likely have the number 1 overall pick. The thing is, they're going to go out and get a quarterback, right, with that first overall pick. I don't know which quarterback they're going to take, but they're going to get the number 1, so we'll find out. But my point is if you're going to roll with Carr going forward, when will you be able to get a quarterback, right? The Niners did what I think the Raiders should do, right? I don't know if the Niners picked the right quarterback, but what they did was they gave up, I believe, 3 first-round picks, and they moved up to that 3rd spot, and they took a quarterback. And the thing is the Niners have a great roster, and now they have a cheap quarterback, right? Going into next year, they're going to be able to get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo, save $30 million of cap space, and they'll be going into next year with a rookie quarterback in year 2. They'll be able to sign some free agents, Michael Gallup maybe, Devontae Adams potentially, right, as you mentioned. and they're going to be able to go into next season. And the Niners aren't a bad team. They're 6-5 right now, right? They're still they're I think technically they're in the playoffs at the moment, right? Or they're at the wild card. So my point is at what point do the Raiders, do you continue waiting with Derek Carr and just say like, hey, we'll just take a quarterback at the 15th pick or whatever pick we end up with, or do you just say let's trade up and potentially just go all in for a quarterback? It's interesting because
it would I think it would just depend on who your guy is, because the Patriots took Mac Jones, which was like was he the fourth quarterback off the board?
Yep.
So just depending on who your guy is. So I think that's what is most important at that point.
It's crazy because the Patriots are the Patriots, right? Well coached, well run, draft well. They do everything well, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, I'd say the Patriots are a top 2 or 3 organization franchise at the moment. You look at a team like the Buffalo Bills, right? They hit on their quarterback, and they went from losing all these years to now they're going to potentially be winning going forward. You look at the Cincinnati Bengals. They lost for so many years, and now going forward, it may be different because they got Joe Burrow. It almost seems like if you get the right quarterback, you'll start winning, right? Yeah. And I feel like, not saying Derek Carr isn't the right quarterback, but when you consider cap, Derek Carr is going to want $40 million. I don't care what anybody says, but when Aaron Rodgers signs his next contract, Aaron Rodgers is going to get $55 million, right? Or whatever the cap may be going into next year or even the year after that, right? These quarterbacks aren't going to settle. Even Derek Carr, he didn't settle when he signed his last contract. He got paid the most money that a quarterback was going to get. I don't think Derek Carr is going to settle, especially, if you're a player that thinks you're the best player in the league or the best quarterback, which, most quarterbacks probably feel that about themselves. Why would you settle and say, I'm going to just take $25 million when that would put you in like the bottom 10 for quarterbacks that have signed outside of the rookie contracts? Why not say I'm going to want the most money because I'm the best quarterback and I lead this team, et cetera, et cetera. It's just such a tough spot that the Raiders are in. Now, at one end, you say you have a pretty good quarterback, and on the other end, you say he's not good enough to get it done, right? It's just so tough, and I don't know where the Raiders go forward with the whole Derek Carr situation.
I think what would you do?
Well, here's the thing.
Like how I said, how I kind of elaborated, what I would do personally, I would get 2 proven wide receivers, because I see a lot of people saying, well, Davante Adams when he come here without Carr. A lot of people are saying that, which I kind of agree with, right? That's kind of a key point to sell to get Davante Adams is Derek Carr is here, right? One of his friends. So that right there. But it doesn't have to be Davante Adams. It could be Allen Robinson for all I care. And then you move on from Carr. I don't want to move on from Carr, though. That's what I first said. If people didn't catch that, I wouldn't move on from Carr, so I wouldn't worry about the Davante Adams and Carr situation. But even if you don't get Davante Adams and you want to move on from Carr, you just go get 2 proven wide receivers, right? And then you go get your quarterback, however that is. You trade draft picks. You just let Carr ride it out. You trade him and then go get a guy. So what would you do after this year? Say we don't make the playoffs, say we make the wild card, whatever it is. What is your plan? What is your plan moving forward with Carr? How do you feel about the Carr situation? What would you do?
So I don't know what Carr's trade value would be, right? I know some people are saying, oh, go get a first-round pick, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think his value is a first-round pick. I just don't. Or I don't think that's what Derek Carr's value is. I know some people might say he should be able to go for a first or whatever, 2 first-round picks. I think Matt Stafford went for 2 first-round picks, right? But that's also a little bit different, right? Matthew Stafford, I believe part of that compensation was the fact that the Lions had to take on Jared Goff's contract, right? So you have to kind of compensate him a little bit for that. But with Derek Carr, I don't think he's worth 2 first-round picks. And then, too, who would want Derek Carr? Like, what teams are out there? And I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback. That's like, why would anyone want him? I'm not saying that. I'm saying how many teams need a quarterback? Like, on the top of my head, the only team that I think is currently saying that let's go out and get a new quarterback would be like the Saints and the Giants. And outside of that, there may be 1 or 2 other teams, because a lot of teams have rookie quarterbacks, have second-year quarterbacks, have guys that they've already invested in, right? Not everybody's looking for a new quarterback every year. At the same time, do you think we have the cap space for Davante Adams and Michael Gallup? Because I don't think we do. I don't think, Max Crosby's going to want to get re-signed. He's eligible after this year, and I guarantee you they're going to sign him after this year. right?
Yeah.
They have to extend him. Darren Waller wants another contract. Yannick Ngakoue has one more year after this, and he's 26 years old. So you should consider re-signing him as well.
Yeah.
Among other guys, right? Like, we have so many other players that the contracts are coming up. What do we do with those guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, Derek Carr is going to go from 19 million, I believe is what his cap is this year, to how much? 30, 35, 40?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what his next contract is. But how much cap do we have left to get Adams, to get Gallup? Even then, like, is that our issue? Is wide receiver the issue with the Raiders? Because I would argue our offensive playmakers are better than a lot of teams' offensive playmakers. I think
that's where we're indifferent right there. Because I think the
we'll talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's get into it and talk about it.
Yeah.
I'll make the argument first. I think having a top 3 tight end in Darren Waller, having a top 10 running back in Josh Jacobs, a top 15 running back in Kenyon Drake, Hunter Renfrow, one of the best slot wide receivers in the league. I think those 4 guys alone are more weapons than most teams have, right? And then don't overlook the fact that Bryan Edwards is not a bad wide receiver, right? The thing is in my opinion, when you look at a guy like Davante Adams, if Davante Adams goes and plays with the quarterback, like Jimmy Garoppolo, for example, Davante Adams does not have the same career he has if he goes and plays with Aaron Rodgers. An example of that would be someone like Greg Jennings. Greg Jennings is a below average football player or an average football player, right? But he had one season or two where he had great numbers, and that was because of Aaron Rodgers, right? If you're telling me Bryan Edwards could not go to Green Bay, and let's say he's the number 2 to Davante Adams, or let's say they don't have Davante Adams and they only have Bryan Edwards, do you think Aaron Rodgers couldn't get Bryan Edwards to be a maybe a top 10, top 15 wide receiver in terms of stats, right? I don't think Bryan Edwards isn't a not skilled player, right? He's not a non-skilled player. He has the skill. I just think he doesn't have the targets. He doesn't have the usage that someone like Davante Adams has, right? And again, that's just Bryan Edwards. We still have Hunter Renfrow. We still have Darren Waller. We have Foster Moreau. We have Josh Jacobs. We have Kenyon Drake. Tell me how many players the Baltimore Ravens have that are better than our guys, or the New Orleans Saints have right now that are better than, like there's so many teams out there that don't have better playmakers than the Raiders. So I don't think it's our playmakers that are the issue at all.
I think when you bring up those teams, you bring up the Ravens, right? And it's funny because their quarterback just threw 4 interceptions, but they still won, right? Against the Browns, right? So, and we play the Browns. Now, I couldn't imagine us going out, doing something like that and still winning the game. That could never happen. So I think when you bring up those teams, they're just different. They're completely different than the Raiders. The Raiders aren't built like them. So they're really solely built around Lamar Jackson and how he can run on offense. But then on defense, it's like, if he could throw 4 interceptions, they could still win the game. Then that says a lot more about the whole team, right? So if our quarterback goes out there and he throws 1 interception, right, but we're still getting blown out, then it's kind of like you can't compare. And then when you talk about the talent-wise, I mean, they have a top 3, technically a top 3. It depends right now, but he's getting up there, right? Their tight end is getting up there in the talks. At least 4, we could say that, because we say Kittle, Waller, and Kels, right, for the 3. So you have him there. As far as running back, I mean, they have some struggle. They're having struggles there. I'll give them that. They have Hollywood Brown. They have Sammy Watkins. And they have Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is a dual threat quarterback. He's a one-of-a-kind quarterback. So he is more talent compared to the whole damn offense of the Raiders, right? That's how I see it. He's the playmaker. Like the legit playmaker, and there's no other player like him. So it's hard to kind of compare that. And then you bring up a team like the Saints. The Saints are built around their defense as well, right? Their defense has been pretty solid these past few years, more than the past few years. So they're especially built different, and they're injured. And even then, they're injured though, right? Alvin Kamara, where would you rank him as running backs?
Definitely top 5,
right? He's probably top 2, really. Like,
the
way he could run, the way he could catch. I've seen him catch a 5-yard pass and take it for 50 yards. Drew Brees marks that as a 50-yard touchdown pass. We don't get we don't get that kind of stuff really, to where we could drop it off for 5 yards and then someone takes it to the house. So that's where I see a huge difference. But they're injured. As far as the Saints, they're injured, and they just lost, right, to the Cowboys, who we just pretty much beat. And we seen what happened to the Saints. What happens when they don't have any weapons? They couldn't score, and their quarterback threw 4 interceptions, and they still didn't
that's
get.
different. They have a tight end playing quarterback, right?
Yeah, but even in that case, they have a tight end at quarterback, brother, and he throws 4 picks, and they still didn't get blown out as bad as us, right? And our quarterback's only throwing 1 pick against a defense that's not as offense not as good as the Cowboys. So that's kind of like my point. In as far as our team, I'm comparing us team to winning teams that are out there built kind of like how we are, right? We're not built like the Ravens at all. And so you would have to compare us to a team more similar to, which would be like the Rams, kind of like the Chargers, something like that, to where we're kind of more passing. The Rams is specifically when we have to compare ourselves to, right? Yep. They don't even really have a running back, but they do have a lot of wide receivers. They do have a lot of weapons out there. And that's what I'm kind of talking about. If we want to be a passing team, which people say we have to pass or whatever because our run game isn't strong, then we have to have weapons like those teams that do pass. And when you look at the wide receiver talent and you look at just that talent in general, the catching, whoever is going to be the receiver at the time, compared to the other passing leaders in the league, the talent doesn't compare.
Let me ask you a question.
That's kind of how I compare it.
No, and you make great points. I agree with a lot of what you're saying. Let me ask you a question. Before the Rams got Odell Beckham Jr., right? Obviously now it's different, but before they had Odell Beckham, they had Cooper Kupp. Mm-hmm. Is there a big difference between Cooper Kupp and Hunter Renfrow? Like, is there a huge difference?
Yeah,
I don't think so. I don't think there's that big of a difference. Yeah. I think, again, I think one of the differences is that Sean McVay's a better offensive coach than what the Raiders have had. Right. Yeah. So maybe he knows how to draw plays up a little bit better. But I don't think there's that big of a difference. I think in the NFL, a lot of the players, you might have top 5 wide receivers, right? But the receivers between 6 and 30, there's not a big gap between those guys. No. Because the 30th best could be the 6th best in any given year, vice versa, right? Because there's not a big difference between like the 6th and 30th player. In my opinion, there's really not. And that's kind of why I bring up Bryan Edwards. Bryan Edwards is talented. Right, Bryan Edwards, had he not been hurt, was considered a first-round pick. Before, coming into that season before he got drafted, he was considered a first-round pick. As the season went along, he had the statistics of a first-round pick, and he was considered a first-round pick. Mm-hmm. He didn't go in the first round for the sole reason he wasn't able to do his combine. He had some injuries and some issues like that. But Bryan Edwards, if he went and played with, let's say, Tom Brady or with Aaron Rodgers, or with Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, I don't think he's the same type of player that he is with the Raiders, right? And I'm not saying that's because of Derek Carr specifically, right? I'm just saying, like, the Raiders offense, they like to pass the ball around. They have a bunch of playmakers. Mm-hmm. I just don't know. You mentioned a little bit.
Well, in comparison, what we could do, a lot of people say Mac Jones is having a great year, but they signed Nelson Aguilar to $50 million a year.
Yep.
And he had his best season with Derek Carr. Yep. That was just one season, so what would you contribute that to?
Are you saying in terms of Nelson Aguilar having his best season?
With Derek Carr, but then he goes to the Patriots with Mac Jones, and he has a down year.
So let me
down. I wouldn't say a down year. He's just not having the same kind of year he would have when he was with Derek Carr. You see what I'm saying? And then you bring up Herbert. We wouldn't know because Herbert's had very good wide receivers his whole career, plus Eckler. And he's checked it down more than Derek Carr this season.
So real quick on Nelson Aguilar.
And he's not even having a good as year than he did last year, right? And then Aaron Rodgers, Lazard is still trash. A wide receiver is not good. Valdez-Scantling, he's not that good. He's really not that good. He hasn't really done much. I doubt he's going to be staying with them for a long period of time, but he's really not that good. And when you think about it, the only real wide receiver Rodgers had is Adams. Outside of that, any tight end that goes over there, they have down seasons. It's like, why do tight ends will go there and they won't have a good season, right? Cook was with them, but he had his best years with Carr. You see what I'm saying? So that's kind of where I am with it. I feel like Carr works with what he has, and a lot of times he'll make a guy come onto the scene and be look a lot better than he is, or they're just he's working with what he has, and that's kind of the best talent he has. Michael Crabtree wasn't all that with the Niners, but he came here and he had his best years. Amari Cooper didn't. His years, his stats didn't go down when he went to the Cowboys. His stats stayed nearly the same. You compare the first 3 years with each team, they're nearly the same. So I think we've never had that kind of Devontae Adams talent either. We never had a Keenan Allen on this team.
We had Cooper. Cooper was legit. Cooper still legit.
Cooper, we did have Cooper, but
Yeah.
like I just said, he had the same kind of stats that he did with the Cowboys. The first 3 years, if you compare them, they're identical. So it's like, and not only that, we got rid of him, brother. We should have Cooper. We should have Cooper and Ruggs, and that's how franchises build teams, right? They have 2, 3, 4 wide receivers, not just Renfro. And then you bring up, is Kupp and Renfro different? Kupp is 6'2", 200 pounds, and Renfro's 5'10", 180 pounds. So it's like if Renfro was 6 foot something and over 200 pounds, then it'd be like, yeah, I think Renfro would be a beast. You know what I mean? If he's moving like that, and then people would have to hit him, that'd be pretty tough. So that's where I think there's a huge difference why Renfro is in the category he's in. He just don't have the size. And that's kind of why he is the way he is, and why he's good is because he's not as big. So he can move differently. He could do things differently, right? Shift differently. And he could get under tackles and kind of save his body so he don't get hit hard, that kind of stuff. So I think there is a difference between Cooper Kupp and Renfro, and especially in that sense.
Let me ask you a question.
Bryan Edwards, man, everybody's not going to be on the scene being good, and that's kind of how I see it.
No,
why is everybody else producing but not Edwards, right? You got Waller, he's doing good. He's only been with Carr.
Yeah.
Deshaun Jackson just came onto the scene. He blows up real quick. Everybody wants to talk about him. Morrow still looks good because who's passing on the ball? Carr. And he's the second string tight end, right? And then you have Renfro obviously is doing good on the team because we always talk about him. His quarterback is Carr. Nelson Aguilar left. He was doing good before Ruggs got in trouble. He was blowing onto the scene. The only person that stands out at this point would be Edwards, right? And the fact that Carr passes the ball a lot to everybody, and not one person is like the one standing out with yards or anything, but Carr is the first in passing. It just shows he'll spread the ball. So who's the odd man out? And it's Edwards. So I think that's kind of where it is.
It's crazy because I agree with you, right? I definitely agree with you, and you make some solid points, right? I think the offense coach, the game planning, all that stuff definitely has an impact on if Edwards is going to have a good game, if Renfro is going to have a good game, if Deshaun Jackson is going to have a good game, right? All that stuff matters, absolutely, right? I don't know the targets on the top of my head, but I will say that if Hunter Renfro has 30 targets and Bryan Edwards has 10, chances are Hunter Renfro is going to have a better statistical line than Bryan Edwards because one has 30 targets, one has 10, right? And you kind of mentioned Scantly of the Green Bay Packers and Allen Lazard and then Devontae Adams. I'm sure Adams has more targets than the other two guys combined, right? I'm going to make that assumption. I will also say this: if Adams isn't there, which people are saying he won't be there next year, we'll see which wide receiver steps up. I guarantee you there will be another wide receiver that steps up. Guarantee you that there will be a receiver that puts up, if not the similar stats to Devontae Adams, eventually they will have another wide receiver that puts up those stats. It's not, in my opinion, it's not the receivers that make a quarterback good. It's the quarterback that makes the receivers good. And it's always been like that, in my opinion, right? You can look at Diggs as an example, right? Like he had his best year last year with the Buffalo Bills. Diggs had a good quarterback pretty much his entire career. And you look at someone like Diggs, the reason why he had his best year last year was because he was the number one wide receiver. He was the only option in that offense. And he got all those targets, right? And that led to him having a great year. You can make that same argument for Waller or Renfro or some of these other guys. Even Foster Moreau as an example, right? Foster Moreau could put up 1,000 yards. Foster Moreau could replace Darren Waller, in my opinion, or be very close to Darren Waller. Obviously, he's still developing.
I think he could. I think he could, and also I think he could almost do better.
Absolutely,
so that's my opinion.
And here's the thing with that, right? And we'll talk about it in a second. But Foster Moreau doesn't have the targets, right? Foster Moreau, the one game he started, had 60 yards, 6 catches, 6 targets, 60 yards. if he had 15 targets that game or 19 as Darren Waller had week 1, Foster Moreau would have put up 100 plus yards.
Yeah.
Right. Last week, Hunter Renfrow, I believe, had 9 or 10 targets and he put up 120 yards. Deshaun Jackson had, I believe he was a 3 for 3, I believe, targets and catches, but that doesn't include the pass interference, obviously, right? I don't know. I just feel like if Bryan Edwards had more playing time, he had more targets, he would definitely be better. Some people say he didn't have separation. I believe it was last week against the Chiefs, not the Cowboys, it was the game before, or 2 weeks ago against the Chiefs. Bryan Edwards was wide open on a play, and I think Carr ended up getting hit, and because of that, he wasn't able to get Edwards the ball. Yeah. But those are the types of things that, in my opinion, impact the Raiders, right? Like on one play, it'll be, Derek Carr gets hit, Brandon Parker loses, and Derek Carr gets hit, or Alex Leatherwood loses, Derek Carr gets hit. And then it'll be like Derek Carr throws the ball, he checks it down because maybe he feels pressure or something to that tune, right? I just don't know what the Raiders do with their offense because, in my opinion, we have a good offensive group. I know the O-line isn't there yet. I think the O-line's still getting better. They're improving. Right? People forget, like, our center, right guard, and left guard are all starting for the first time in their entire careers.
I always say that.
And then even our left tackle and our current right tackle, they're all in year 4, right? Yeah. So, like, we have guys that are in their 4th year or less. Our O-line's going to get better, right? Maybe it won't be this year, but going into next year, they'll be better. And I almost feel like we need to let Rich Incognito go, and then even Denzel Good. I love Denzel Good, but I feel like, if you're going to roll with Alex Leatherwood at right guard, then we don't need Denzel Good, right? If you're going to put Leatherwood back to right tackle, then great, let's keep Good, right? I love Good. I think he's a great player.
Yeah.
But I just don't know what this team does to fix itself, right? Because you have the weapons. But then at the same time, you look at some of our games and look at what we're doing. Like, against the Chargers, we score 14 points. Against the Bears, we score 9 points. Against the Giants, we score 16, 14 against the Chiefs, 13 against the Bengals. Those are our losses. We average 12 points a game in our 5 losses, right? That's the worst. That's the worst points per game. That's the worst team in the entire league, right? 12, I think it's 12.3. I had done the math in the past. 12.3 points per game. That's the worst offense in the entire league. And those are our losses. And I know your argument. You're going to say, why do we have to have Derek Carr have a great game for us to lose? Why can't he just have a bad game and we win?
Well, no, that's not. I wasn't going to say that. So, okay. but go ahead.
Okay. So the thing with that is it's different if Derek Carr is going 3 and out, right? And we're not picking up first downs. If you're 1 of 9 on first downs, you're not going to win because your defense is out there constantly because you're not extending drives. The time of possession is going to get shifted one way or the other. You're going to lose games because you just can't win. That's losing recipe right there, right? In my opinion, even in those games that we lost, we didn't need Derek Carr to put up 400 yards, right? Yards are irrelevant, and we'll get into Derek Carr's yards in just a second. They're super irrelevant. They don't matter, right? Yeah. What we needed from Derek Carr is we just needed him to drive us downfield, pick up some first downs, get some field goals, just put up some more points because at least that provides hope for the defense. How often, if the defense has to be out there for 40 minutes a game and the offense has the ball for 20 minutes, the defense is going to give up a ton of points. It's impossible for them to not give up those points when you're on the field for so long. The Chiefs game is different. You can make the argument that the defense did not do their part. The Chiefs pretty much scored on every single time they had the ball. But against the Bengals, against the Giants, the Chargers, the Bears, the final score does not indicate what that game actually was. That game, those 4 losses were so much closer. And really, we lost because the defense, especially at the end, kind of said, game's already over. It's fine if this team scores, right? Joe Mixon had I think a 30-yard touchdown run at the end of that Bengals game. And I believe they also kicked the field goal at the end of that game when the game ended, right? Yeah. But those are the types of things that when you look at the points per game and you don't actually watch the tape, those are the types of things that, in my opinion, make it seem like the defense is giving up more points than they are, right? Because I would argue that 4 of the 5 losses was because of Derek Carr and the fact that the offense couldn't convert first downs. It wasn't because of the defense, right? Obviously, I would say in that one game against the Chiefs, that was because of defense. There's no room for it. Although Derek Carr didn't play great either, right? 14 points isn't going to win you anything, right? Yeah. But there are some super chats. I want to just quickly get into them. Thank you, Kevin, for the super chat. I really appreciate you as always. I'm going to let you respond to that in just a second. Darren Waller has looked like he's running through mud most of the season. Not sure if he has hurt or just not trying, but I'll be honest, Foster in his limited action has been more consistent. And I agree. I 100% agree with that. And we'll talk about this a little bit later on. David, thank you for the super chat. We're going to actually hit on this in a little bit. We're going to talk about Waller. There was a super chat earlier about Waller and Foster, and we should trade Waller. I'm not opposed to that, man. And we'll talk about that in a second here. And we'll get into this question in a second as well. How does Malik Willis compare to Lamar Jackson? How high would you draft him? What is each of your dream offseason for the Raiders? We'll talk about quarterbacks as well, specifically Malik Willis. But I want to give you some time to just respond to kind of what I said about that entire situation.
I think a lot of it, because this is my first thing I would ask you. Would you want to chew time off the clock? What do you do on offense?
If I'm going to say we need to chew time off the clock, well, I don't think it necessarily matters. Time of possession doesn't matter as much, right? Like, here's the thing. I think Tom Brady said this a couple years back, right? Maybe 2 or 3 years ago. He was talking about the Raiders offense, and he said something about, why take a 2-yard pass here, a 3-yard pass there, and then, a 5-yard pass? Because that's just 10 yards. Why not just make one pass for 10 yards, right? And I agree with that logic, right? I don't like the fact that the Raiders run so many 2, 3, 4-yard throws. Let's throw the ball downfield, 7 to 15 yards. Let's make those throws more often. And I think over the course of a game, if you just have those type of plays, because if you're 1 of 9 on third downs, why even get to third down? Just pick the first down up on first down or on second down, right? And I think ultimately, if you're just able to just pick up more first downs, time of possession does not matter, right? I don't care about the actual number. I was just kind of throwing that out there because, the game did, in some of our losses, it does reflect that. The other team has the ball more in offense. Now our offense is not able to sustain drives, right?
No.
I don't know if we need to run the football, right? I don't know if Derek Carr needs to throw it more. We just got to get it done, man. Like, we just have to get it done.
I think it's important because of how our offense is, right? Earlier, I was going to ask you the question, what is our offensive identity, right? If you had to answer that, what's our offensive identity?
Our offensive identity, I think we're a balanced offense. I think we want to try to run the football, and we want to throw.
Like our ideal, like based on our team, knowing our past years, what we're doing, what's our ideal, is a balanced offense.
I think with John Gruden, it was definitely we want to try running the football, but it's clear that has not been working, which makes sense, right? I think our identity today going forward is we throw the ball first and we run off of the pass. Which that's how good teams win, in my opinion, right? The Buccaneers aren't a run first football team. The Chargers aren't a run first. The Chiefs aren't a run first. Those teams throw the ball and they set the run up off of those throws.
So and that's kind of my point, right? We weren't built for that, though. We weren't built to be a pass first team to open up the run. We were built the opposite way, right? We were built to run first. Control line of scrimmage, run first, and open it up like that. And then also you come to the point to why do we throw these short passes? That's the offense. That's just how the West Coast, you know what I mean? That's just what it's just drawn up to be. So, and then not only that, when we're in situations to where it's not third and short, because our offense is built to be like that, right? It's supposed to be 3rd and 3. Then we could run it, or we could throw a short, quick little pass, and then we get a first down. That's how we methodically move down the field. But we're not able to do that anymore because we have no run game. So when we can't run the ball on first down and get 3 to 4 yards, and we're only getting 1 yard, then we run it again, and we don't even get a yard. So now it's 3rd and 9. Which I've seen that happen multiple times.
Absolutely.
That's terrible. Right? You can't expect your quarterback at that point. It's like just have him throw the football. You know what I mean? Just have him go throw the football at that point, right? So I think with that's terrible, and it messes up the drive because in a lot of situations it'll be like that. And imagine, and then this is the other thing. We'll end up at 3rd and 3, and then you get a false start, and then you end up at 3rd and 8. And it's like, okay, now we have to convert to 3rd and 8. So I think when a lot of those situations happen, it looks bad on the stat sheet. Also, to add to the time of possession for the defense, them being on the field, my theory is we just score too fast. That's just what it is.
We score too quickly?
Yes, we'll score too quickly when we do. When we do. So my example is we only scored 14 points. I hear you. I definitely agree with you. We didn't score enough. But how did we get the points? We drive down the field in 3 plays.
Are you saying against the Cowboys specifically, or
No, I'm saying, like specifically, let's say the Chiefs.
okay?
We
Yep,
go
the
out
second
there,
half
right?
drive.
Like we'll go
Yep,
out there, 3-play
yep,
drive, we
yep,
score.
yep,
Boom. Next play, 4-play drive, we score.
yep,
Boom. You see what I'm saying?
yep,
Next play or next drive, we throw it to Deshaun Jackson. That was like on the 3rd play.
yep. That
And he
yeah,
drops it.
absolutely.
But
Yep,
we're scoring 3 touchdowns in what, a total of 10, 12 plays? You see
yep,
what I'm saying? So when that happens, you go score quick, but then your defense is right back on the field. You go
yep,
score quick, but the defense is right back on the field. How we used to play was we'd be able to run and we'd be able to take a lot of time off the clock, and we were balanced, but we're not balanced anymore. And my point is to that, also to add to my just some more information to add to my point, is the reason Josh Jacobs can be 10th in the league in rushing touchdowns but be 34th in the league in rushing yards is because Carr does have all those yards. And in a perfect example, people will bring up against the Giants, Josh Jacobs, he had a good game, which I'm indifferent to. I don't think he did. In regulation, he had 66 yards on 21 carries. That is terrible.
yep,
That is terrible. And the one touchdown he got was because we were at the 1-yard line.
yep.
Of course, you better get a freaking touchdown. Like, bro, you're telling me your only touchdown came off a 1-yard run because we threw it. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So, and then you brought up how the defense, those scores look worse than what they were because at the end of the game, the team started scoring points. But that's every game. We're last in the league when it comes to fourth quarter points. So we're last. So even when we win, even when the Cowboys were not leading at one point, they were not leading. How the hell did it end up in a tie when we're up 8 points with 3 minutes left? And then you go back.
Do we have the ball? Do we have the ball at any point?
Yeah, we had the ball, and it was the 2-minute warning, and we got a penalty on Andre James for false start, which I think was BS call.
Oh yeah, the head
movement. It was a BS call, but it was still a penalty on the offensive line.
Yep.
We still ended up getting backed up, and we didn't keep the ball because right there we would have got the first down. We're in position of getting a first, and if the call goes the other way, we get a first down. But if nothing happens, we're on the way to a first down, and we can close the game out as an offense. But that just goes to show that even though if the offense doesn't do it, the defense ain't gonna close the game out because you're already landing the points back in that whole fourth quarter. And then and just to back that up is even against the Dolphins, bro, with Jacoby Brissett, we're up 8 points, and you let Jacoby Brissett drive all the way down the field and score a 2-point conversion, and we're in overtime again. So we're in overtime 3 games this season, and every time we scored more than 30 points. So and it's not like we're sitting there losing the whole game and then we come back. Nah, we were up the whole time.
Yep.
And so you're telling me, and that's kind of where I'm indifferent at with a lot of stuff.
Yep.
We can't run the ball. That's another reason we can't close games on offense because you have to run the football. And
let me make a point really quickly. You make a lot of valid points. I totally agree with you. You said something that got me thinking. I had to pull some stats up. So you said Josh Jacobs is top 4 or something in touchdowns.
He's 10th. He's 10th.
He's 10th in touchdowns,
but
he's bottom 30th in
like 34th or something like that. Yeah,
in yards, right?
Yeah.
So that's a good point you bring up. So Derek Carr is number 1 in yards, but he's 12th in touchdowns.
Yep.
He's top 10 in interceptions and fumbles, right?
Yep.
So you can say we can't run the football, but at the same time, you can also make the same argument that the reason why we're not scoring points is because Derek Carr is getting empty yards. We're not scoring touchdowns, right? We're getting empty yards. Derek Carr's, again.
Well, in my defense, that's why I said Jacobs can be 10th in rushing touchdowns, right? Because his yards to touchdowns don't even match. He's not earning those touchdowns. He doesn't. If you told me right now he has more touchdowns than Dalvin Cook, I'd be like, what? Hell no, there's no way. But he does.
So he does. Let me ask you another question.
That's kind of where I come from. That's what I mean by that's what I meant by that point by Carr can have that many yards. Yep. But in the end zone, think about it. Mariota got a rushing touchdown. He ain't do shit the whole drive. You see what I'm saying?
That's a good point.
We passed all the way downfield.
Let me ask you a question. Yeah. I would say that for running backs, the most important stat is yards and yards per attempt, right? For running backs, those are the more important yards. Touchdowns don't matter for running backs, realistically speaking.
Yeah.
For quarterbacks, yards don't matter for quarterbacks. What matters is your touchdown to interception ratio or your turnover to interception ratio.
I agree.
Right. And Derek Carr is not a top 15 touchdown to interception ratio.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is on the top of my head, but he's not in the top 10. I'm going to assume he's not even in the top 20. Right.
Yeah, probably not.
And I would argue that for quarterbacks and that too, for that to impact teams to win, yards don't matter. And all I ever see on Twitter is people saying, and social media in general, is, Derek Carr is a top 7 quarterback. He's an MVP caliber because he's number 1 in yards. But yards are irrelevant. Jameis Winston had 5,000 yards, I think, 2 years ago. And no one even wants him to start now. I think the New Orleans Saints have realized that they don't want him either to be their future quarterback, right? Yards are irrelevant, in my opinion. The only way they're relevant is if your touchdown to interception ratio is top tier. Aaron Rodgers, a great example of that as last year, right? He had like 40 plus touchdowns, less than 10 interceptions. That makes sense, right? Yeah. But I also agree with what you're saying in terms of Josh Jacobs getting touchdowns or Marcus Mariota getting that empty touchdown because Derek Carr drove us downfield.
My point to the yards, though, and I don't want to sound biased to Carr, but even at the beginning of the season, I would say the same thing you're saying, but I would use different words. I don't say it doesn't matter. I don't say yards don't matter when it comes to quarterbacks. I would just say it's overinflated. More overhyped. Yeah. People will overhype it. And I think when someone has a lot of yards, you have to take a step back and you have to really look at what else is going on. And for us, the fact that our quarterback is the passing leader, I already know what the hell is going on. So I can kind of pick apart, okay, what's this? Why doesn't he have those touchdowns, right? Our running back is 10th in rushing touchdowns. That's crazy just to think that. There's no way he could be, right? Yeah. Not including the rushing touchdown Drake get, or now Mariota will be getting, right? So, or Ingold. Right. Yep. So stuff like that. So that's kind of just that's in itself. So when you see the passing yards, you have to take a step back and then go look at those things, which I did. That's kind of how I look at it, because all season, all I heard was Deshaun Watson, this down at third, had passing yards, blah, blah, blah. He led the league. Blah, blah, blah. And I would say the same thing. I would say it's overhyped. Those yards are overhyped. He was still 4-12.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? Yep. People bring up Jameis Winston, and Jameis Winston and Deshaun Watson are not nearly the same quarterback. I think everybody could agree with that, right? So, and that's kind of my point, right? And so when it comes to yards, I think you definitely have to take a step back and look at that, take in consideration, okay, where are these other dudes getting their touchdowns from? If we're getting all of our yards, there's no way we could be almost last in rushing yards, first in passing yards, but then our running back be 10th in touchdowns, right? So that's just kind of where I'm at. Because we're middle of the pack when it comes to rushing touchdowns. And that right there is a stat that should really open the eyes up to say, oh, okay, how? How can we? And that's what I mean, passing the ball down the field. And then with the third down thing, I think we're last in the league with third down attempts. We had the least amount of third down attempts. I believe,
because we don't convert them, so we don't have that opportunity for the next one.
But my point, but also that brings up to my point is we score too quick. Also, we're not getting third downs, bro. We're literally throwing the ball 40 yards and then another 20 yards, and then we score. Boom, that's the play. And when you go, and I'm telling you, if you go back and you look at the games, we're scoring points and stuff's going on, dude. It's Carr throwing the ball 30, 40 yards downfield. And that's the only way we're scoring, bro. And that's kind of where I'm indifferent when people is like, bro, this is the only way we can score the football. And this is kind of like, it's hurting other parts of our team. Of course, the defense on the field a lot, but I think that's irrelevant. I think they'll still give up points because we had 13 more minutes than the Cowboys last game, and we're still in overtime. So that right there, I was like, that don't make sense.
I want to ask you a question about that. Are we a better team than the Cowboys? If the Cowboys had their 2 receivers, right, as they did yesterday. And let's just make the assumption that the Raiders, penalty-wise, don't get as many first downs as they got. Because let's be honest, the penalty shifted the entire game. Without a question, right? Are we a better team than the Dallas Cowboys?
A better football? Do we have? Are we a better football team?
Let me just ask you that.
No, we're not a better football team than the Cowboys. No,
we're not. And I agree with you. I think we got lucky that the fact that Cooper was out as well as Lamb. And I also think that the Raiders got a bunch of first downs, and I think that shifted the entire game. All right. I know we had the same amount of penalties as they did, but the penalties were different.
But the Waller fumble, I thought that was a fumble as well.
I agree. I totally agree. I think that was a fumble as well. And I believe we were able to punt the ball after that. again, those are the differences.
Yeah. Because that right after that, Carr threw a pass to Zay Jones on the sideline, but then it ended up being holding.
And that was
holding. So perfect example, brother.
Yeah.
It's bro. We throw a pass to Waller, it's a fumble, but it goes our way, so we go again. Carr throws.
Let me ask you a question real quick
and then
about
third
that.
down. It's holding. Like,
let me ask you a question about that throw. Everyone knows that Zay Jones catch that on the sideline. Do you think that was a bad pass by Carr, or do you think he was just trying to put it there only where Zay Jones can get it? Because I'm going to be honest, I think that was just a bad
I think it was
throw.
both.
Okay.
I think he was trying to put it where only Zay Jones could get it, but it was hella far out of bounds. And Zay Jones made a freaking.
I don't know how he crazy caught that
play.
pass.
Look, like you heard of Zay Jones challenge, right?
Nuh-uh.
No.
Yeah.
Where he like levitates backwards.
Yep.
That's what it reminded me of. I'm like, this dude got some crazy balance, but I think it was both. I think it was a bad pass by Carr, and he was just trying to have a player make a play, but also to where it would be a dead play if something happened, which was smart, but a bad pass.
Yeah.
Zay Jones still makes the catch though, and plays like that don't stick because we got a penalty.
Yeah.
And there's back-to-back bad plays. Now we're asking our quarterback to overcome this. Not only a fumble that was called our way, but also a penalty, which happens a lot. It happens a lot. And that right there, we got to get that because we're second in the league in penalties. And that's hard to overcome.
Yeah.
But the Cowboys are first in penalties, though.
It's crazy because, we're 6-5.
Yeah.
And I would argue that we've kind of got lucky against the Cowboys, right? I think that could have easily been a loss. But even then, I think we kind of got lucky against the Ravens and the Steelers, right? The Ravens had just lost their corner, their starting running back, like literally 3 or 4 days before they came in and played the Raiders.
Yeah.
Even the Steelers, right? They lost their starting corner, their best corner, their best linebacker were both not playing, and then even then TJ Watt knocked out after the first 2 drives, and TJ Watt was destroying Alex Leatherwood. He would have had a huge impact if he was in the rest of the game. We barely won those games, right? Like the Steelers, the defense stepped up and they made some stops when it mattered, but you can argue we could have lost 3 games, right? All 3 of them. Like, you can make that argument we should be 3-8 after.
I would argue that other teams are lucky just to play us the way we are. Shit,
that's true too, and I agree with that. I definitely agree with
that. Jacobs is not playing as well. We're missing 3 offensive linemen, all sorts of stuff. So I would say other teams are lucky too.
There's been some super chats where people are talking a little bit about the offensive line and how the offensive line is an issue. So shout out to those 2 super chats, and shout out to you, Todd. I really appreciate the donation.
TC.
To the 2 best Raiders YouTubers right here. Really appreciate that. If you guys are not subscribed to Raid the Tape, check his YouTube channel out. It's literally Raid the Tape. Great channel. And I'll be live on his channel pregame on Sunday, so you guys can check that out. We'll be live. But do you think the offensive line, there's some issues with the offensive line? And, I don't think the O-line needs to change, right? I think they need to develop, right? And I think that's a big, big difference. And, some people are saying, oh, well, we let go of our center, Rodney Hudson, and we bring in Andre James, and he's trash. He's this, he's that. I don't think there's a humongous difference between Rodney Hudson and Andre James. Like this year, there's not a big difference because Rodney Hudson is, obviously Rodney Hudson's probably better this year for sure. But going into next year, I don't think there would be that big of a difference, right? And then even then, like Rodney Hudson's going to retire in 2 to 3 years. I think you have to make that change eventually, and I think it was the right time to make that change. I would
argue it wasn't, man.
Okay, tell me why you feel that way.
Because we took that cap hit, bro.
So
that's why I would say that, and I think because as we know how the situation went with him and Gabe Jackson, and I think the fact that it went that way is why it didn't go as smoothly as it could have. Because I don't have a problem with the offensive line. I agree with everything you said as far as developing.
Yeah.
Because I remember when we talked about it at the beginning of the season and we watched them after like a week or 2. I was hard on them, but at the same time, I said you can't judge them right now. You have to give them to week 7 or 8. You really have to. Then from week 7 or 8, you can see where they're at, and then from on there, you would judge their performance for the year. I wouldn't use weeks 1 through 7 to judge their performance because they're inexperienced. They have no experience. They're first-year starters. They're all young guys. There's no veteran presence at all on that offensive line besides Miller, which is kind of hard. His personality is not like, yo, I'm the leader. You know what I mean? So, and I'm not saying anything about him. He's still a good offensive lineman, but he just doesn't have that Richie Incognito presence, or even a Rodney Hudson wasn't like that, but he still was a captain, right? You would still follow him. So, that's why I'll say you have to give them time. You have to judge their performance this year based on weeks like 7 or 8 to the end of the year. You can't really use those first few games.
And that's a good point because according to Pro Football Focus, and I'm not a huge PFF guy, right? I like their stats. I'm not huge into their grades, but according to Pro Football Focus, after week 4 forward, right? What is about week 13? So week 4 to week 12, Andre James has been ranked as a top 5 center. Right, in terms of his grade, I think he's the 5th or maybe the 6th center according to Pro Football Focus. So just exclude the first 3 games, and he's ranked according to PFF higher than Rodney Hudson. I don't know if he's playing better. I don't watch Rodney Hudson, so that would be biased to me saying that. And I'm not saying he's a better football player, but at a certain point, guys kind of fall off a little bit, right? They don't block the same way.
Yeah,
and Rodney Hudson was getting beat more and more the past 2 seasons.
Yeah,
and has Andre James allowed a sack this year? I don't think so. I'm sure he's allowed Carr to get hit, right? And I'm sure he's missed his assignments, but I don't think he's allowed a sack. I don't know how many hits he's allowed either. But I don't, and again, I think the O-line has gotten better. I think Brandon Parker played like trash. He got his ass kicked by Michael Parsons, and it was terrible. It was really, really bad. Michael Parsons destroyed him on almost every other play.
Yeah.
But I don't think the O-line's that good from right guard to left tackle, right? And I think they need to kind of get a little bit better, do some more things. But even Gabe Jackson, and let's be honest, right? Coming into the year, is our offense line better if we had Richie Incognito and Denzel Good both starting at left guard, right guard? We're better, right?
I would think so.
And at the very least, you could have swapped Leatherwood from right tackle to right guard and Good from right guard to right tackle. And you would still have Jermaine Illuminor as a backup.
I mean, just having Good alone would have been a blessing.
It would have been absolutely huge. And again, I think the O-line would have been fine had we not gotten hurt.
Yeah.
Right. I think the decision to get rid of Trent, Gabe, and Rodney were the right decisions. Now, obviously, the dead cap situation kind of sucks. And just to clarify, a lot of people say that, the Raiders are still paying Rodney Hudson not to be here. We're not actually paying him anything. We've already paid him, right? The cap hit is just an accrual, right, of what we've already paid him. So we're not actually giving him cash this year. A lot of people have been commenting that on my videos, saying, Mark Davis is already broke, and yet here he is paying cash to a guy that we got rid of. And that's not the case, but
that's just dead cap. It's just dead cap for the year. So
exactly.
We gave him the money would have went to him this year, but it was in advance. That's how Carr already been paid in advance. But now you're able to cut him for no loss.
Exactly. Are you fine with the current offensive line going forward? Are you good with it, or do you think we need to make some changes?
So with the offensive line, after seeing Parker go in, I know we talked about it. You told me some things going on with that. But with Parker being in there and taking a step back and looking at it, I was thinking that this would be the offensive line moving forward into next year. So they could, in this year, they would mold together, build chemistry, and they would develop. And that's kind of what I've seen. That's kind of what I thought, and especially when I said you got to wait till week 7, 8 to see what you have and then move forward. So I think they're developing well. I like the offensive line. Only person I would really replace is Brandon Parker. That's the only person I would replace, man. Outside of that, I kind of like the offensive line. I still think they're not that good.
Absolutely.
There's still a lot of stuff that needs to be changed. Not as far as players, but as far as just them playing better, right? Discipline, technique, and chemistry, and learning, just learning the game. This is for, like I said, the inexperienced, brother. So they got to figure this out themselves. And I think moving forward, we're in a good place because we have youth on our side. We have the salary on our side. So when it comes to the offensive line, so you just replace Brandon Parker with me, I would want to vet. And I think when you talk about Rodney Hudson and Gabe and Trent, I would have only got rid of Trent. I would have and probably Gabe, because you would have
Yep.
saved money, whatever
Yep.
the case. But when Rodney Hudson gets talked about in that's tough, because I know it's not money right now we're paying him, but this is services you paid for at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? That you basically, for him, it was kind of like an easy call.
Yep.
For us, we were the ones that got burdened with it. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
Because now that's kind of where I'm seeing it from. So at that point, it's kind of like, damn, we lost that part, because he's making out regardless, and we're not able to cut him and not save money, and that's where it hurt us. But and the leadership and the veteran presence, I think Alex Leatherwood at right tackle would have blossomed with a Rodney Hudson and Gabe Jackson next to him. It would have been so much easier. The offensive line probably would have been a little bit better, but for his development and for the rest of the offensive line, really, just to have that presence, bro, that confidence in those leaders right there, it would help those guys. But the fact that none of our guys are veterans like that, none of them are captains, none of them are leaders, then it's going to be hard for them to really develop and come together as a group. And I think that's where Rodney Hudson has really missed the most. Trent Brown, he had to kick rocks. But with the other two, it's kind of tough. I think we should have bit the bullet on that, especially when it came to Leatherwood, if we really want to move forward. And then next year, boom, insert Andre James and some other people. And it only shows now, damn, we're down good and incognito, like you brought up. So that's 4 starting offensive linemen were really out. So that's just kind of how I see it.
You make valid points. I totally agree. And it sucks that both guards end up going out for the year, right? And maybe we don't bring Richie or Good both back, right? If we had Rodney.
No, Richie gotta go. I would want to bring Good back personally.
Yeah.
I like how he could play tackle. I like how he could play guard. I like how he just seems like a good energy guy. And that he's a pretty good lineman. You know what I mean? So we got to keep someone like that. I think this year just proves it. This is called depth. This is the kind of stuff we need. He could step into a leadership role even if he is a backup, right?
Absolutely.
So I think keeping him around definitely. Richie, he can go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So David asked a good question. He says, "Is our right tackle, would he be legit for any team, right? In the top 15?" And that's no. Like, I don't think Brandon Parker is a starter anywhere. And it's not that he needs more time to develop. He's just not a starting tackle. You're in your 4th year at this point. And I'm not saying that going into year 8, he may not be a starting tackle, but we don't have 8 years to give a right tackle to get it together, right? He's a 3rd round pick. If he was a 7th round pick, that's different, but he wasn't, right? Thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Sanjit, how about the fan that predicted all of the games for the Raiders with the coin flip? If you haven't seen it already, you need to check it out. I have checked it out. I appreciate the super chat. I really do. I haven't looked into verifying if it's 100% real, as in, did he actually make the predictions before the season started? I don't know. I don't know if you've looked into it, Raid, if that's 100% confirmed, because things could be fake.
I think I heard about it a few weeks ago. I want to say I heard about it a few weeks ago. So I know it's been he's gotten at least the last 3 right, I think. Okay. Because I heard about it a few weeks ago. Okay. When it came up like a lot was against the Cowboys.
Yeah.
That was the one where it came up a lot. So
here's the thing. If you flip the coin, and this is, he's gotten all of them correct so far. I mean, he's just gotten lucky, right? With the coin flip. We'll see what happens. I honestly don't think that a coin flip is going to determine the season, right? I think at a certain point, I heard about it, I think 2 games ago. And he's gotten the last 2 correct. Actually, I might have just heard about it before the Cowboys game, and he got the Cowboys game correct. And we'll see if he gets the rest of them correct. I'm going to say he's not going to have the rest of them correct. Maybe he'll get the next one, but eventually I don't think he's going to have all of those correct. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think you predict your season on that. I didn't hear about it in the offseason. I've stuck with my prediction.
Exactly.
And it's been the same as the coin flip. So I think it's a trip, though. I think it's real interesting, especially the fact that we lost 3 in a row and then we beat the Cowboys. So on Thanksgiving, I think it's interesting, and then it actually happened. So I think it's fun to watch. I think it's something just fun.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Now, there were
definitely don't try to skew your football knowledge for a coin, though.
No, and I totally at first I actually thought it was someone who was like into gambling and predicting that way, and then I realized he did a coin flip. It's different if you're into gambling and predicting scores, and that's how you kind of come up with this. I think that's a little bit more scale based, right? As opposed to like doing a coin. But hey, hopefully it's right, and hopefully we get into the playoffs, right?
Right.
I do want to ask you. There was a super chat earlier that talked a little about Darren Waller, and if the Raiders should potentially trade him. What do you think? Should the Raiders keep Darren Waller? Now, I will say this, right? Darren Waller was a wide receiver in college, I believe, right? And then came into the league, and that's when he became a tight end. I know you watched the tape, and I know you've seen that Darren Waller has been lining up as a wide receiver more the past couple of weeks, and Foster Moreau has been the inline tight end more often the past couple of weeks. If that's the case, if that's how the Raiders move forward, that's great because now Darren Waller is just a wide receiver, right? But his statistics also haven't been that great. So do you think that's why they haven't been great? Is because he's been lining up more as a wide receiver?
But I think that could be potential, but at the same time, I think it's just a lot of people lock in on him a lot. I think that's where a lot of hesitation came when we have a speedster and Waller. A lot of people would hesitate whether, okay, am I going to, help with Waller right here, or am I just going to, get beat by Ruggs? So I think a lot of hesitation came there. I think Waller's season hasn't been too bad. I think his touchdowns are a little down. I think his yards are decent.
He's still, I think, fourth in yards.
Yeah, as a tight end, right?
As a tight end, yeah.
As a tight end. So that's not too bad. I mean, you're still top 5 in yards as a tight end. Maybe the touchdown numbers aren't there.
Yeah.
As far as trading Waller, though, I just want to get into that, man. I would do that, and I'm going to say that just straight off the back. I would trade Waller and let Morrow come up and do his thing. Trade Waller for a proven wide receiver, an actual wide receiver, or for draft picks or just proven players. I mean, anything at this point, so we can get something. But that's kind of how I would do it. I know a lot of people don't want to get rid of Waller, which I'm not opposed to that. I'd keep Waller too, but I don't know, man. I think we would suffice better if we let him go and we let Morrow come up, and then we just get a real wide receiver. Like, I wouldn't want to just put him at wide receiver. I'd get a real wide receiver.
So that's a good point that you make, right? Is that we could get rid of Waller. I just don't know, right? Because I look at it like this. I don't think tight ends, receivers, I don't think any of that really matters. It's not that important. What it really comes down to is your offensive line and your quarterback, right? You can win with just that. If your defense is good enough, force some turnovers, stuff like that. Because the Raiders made the playoffs with the 22nd ranked defense in 2016, or it was bottom 12 defense, but they forced a lot of turnovers. They were top, I think, 6 or 7 in turnovers, right? Turnovers and a good quarterback. Exactly. Yeah. He's just
he single-handedly closed like 4 or 5 games that year.
Absolutely.
And I think he won Defensive Player of the Year that year, right?
Say that again?
He won Defensive Player of the Year?
In 2016, I think he might have.
I think he won 2016. I think that it might have been that year. It had to have been that year, man.
Yeah, and I agree. Well, here's my thought process, though, right?
Yeah.
Darren Waller is a mismatch, right?
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of mismatches in the NFL, right? And I do understand that if it's a receiver versus a corner, the receiver definitely has the advantage, right? Especially in today's league. But Darren Waller's a different breed in terms of he's that mismatch that, in my opinion, the Raiders have to have on the offense side of the ball. I think where the Raiders made mistakes was getting Josh Jacobs in the first round, and then paying Kenyon Drake. And Kenyon Drake's not even paid that much money, but I think we would have been better off just having Kenyon Drake, giving him $5 or $6 million per year over his 2 years, and not having Josh, because Josh also eats up salary cap.
I agree.
Even then, like, we're paying John Brown not to be here, right? I can't remember on the top of my head. I think there's another receiver we're paying not to be here as well.
So him and Snead, I think, total like 2.5.
Yeah, so like stuff like that, I feel like is a mistake by the Raiders. Now, here's the thing: if Hunter Renfrow wants to get paid, and let's say he wants like $14 million, right? I don't know what his cap value is. I don't know how much the Raiders are going to pay him, but let's say he wants like $12 to $14 million. I don't know how the Raiders move forward with that, because I don't think having top tier wide receivers matter that much, right? I think having a good defense matters more. Having a good quarterback matters more.
I agree.
Your quarterback should be able to make plays and win you games.
Yeah.
Right, as Josh Allen does, as Lamar Jackson does, as Patrick Mahomes does. But I do think having a guy like Darren Waller, who tight ends aren't paid $28 million, right? And I don't know what the top wide receiver makes, but I'm going to assume it's getting close to $28 million, right? Or at least
I think Hopkins gets like 27 right now.
Yeah, so and Waller will get what, 16? 17.
I don't know, man. I was thinking like 18 to 20.
But that's still cheaper, right, than a wide receiver. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I think you have to consider things like that
Yeah.
when you're gonna keep a guy like Waller. At the same time, the Patriots won a Super Bowl with two great tight ends, right? And Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski. I don't see why the Raiders couldn't have two great tight ends and win that way, right?
We don't build defenses though, man.
That's the thing. And
They
here's
have Bill Belichick, one of the greatest defensive lines,
and that's different. That's different.
And their defense, I think the past 15 years, I don't want to cap on this or over exaggerate, has been at least top 15 or better.
And I agree. I agree.
Bro. And they're first in the league this year. So
yeah,
I think if they had a Carr, they would be perfect. They would be fine. Give that defense and just let him sit back there and chill.
Who's better in your opinion, or who's going to be better, Mac Jones or Derek Carr?
Oh, Derek Carr, easy, easy, bro. If you had Mac Jones on this team, Mac Jones would look like Trevor. Probably.
No, I agree. I agree.
Worse than Trevor Lawrence. He would look worse than Trevor Lawrence.
Let me ask you another question then. Do the Raiders need to take a quarterback in the draft? If let's say we have the 17th pick and someone like Malik Willis from Liberty's there, do the Raiders take that quarterback, or do we take a different position and just try to continue building on Derek?
No, man. I talked about it earlier already, dude. It's hard, man, because you have to have an identity on the offense and the defense. We have no identity. Yep. And this is where I get frustrated because we built this team to be a run-heavy, power-running football team. West Coast, whatever, anything, whatever term you want to term out there, I don't care. We were running the ball. That's what we were imposing on teams. That's what other teams would say about us. That's a tough football team. They want to impose their will on you. Perfect example. First game we come out to play the Broncos in 2019 game, and we're just running the ball down their throats the whole way down, the whole entire game, dude. We just had the ball, running the ball down their throats, right? And we're not that anymore. And we're supposed to still be that. There was no memo. There was no any press conference, no content creator saying, yeah, we're not going to be that anymore. We're going to be an all-passing football team. Nobody ever said that. I never heard that from anybody. So we need to have an identity on both sides of the ball. And importantly, we need to figure it out on the offense. But as far as the defense, which I want to build and I've been wanting to build, we've missed that chance. So I feel like that ship has sailed. We missed on Devin White, Derwin James, Ed Oliver, Josh Allen, Jalen Johnson, so many good football players. Kenneth Murray, Christian Barmore. Like, dude, we could have a stacked defense right now if I would have just been the GM, bro. Like, we would have been an all-star defense.
Agree with you, man.
So I think our defense should have been top tier right now. Yep. Like all the opportunities that we could have had with youth and just speed and talent on the defense, bro. Yep. Like just Derwin James and Devin White would be a dream right now. That's simply, someone said Patrick Queen. Like, dude, we missed on too much on defense. Now, if you want to change everything and go to the offensive side of the ball, we missed on that too. We took Henry Ruggs.
So here's the thing.
And Josh Jacobs.
So here's the thing. This is, I think, the way the Raiders should move forward. I don't think paying Derek Carr 35, 40, 40, whatever he gets, I don't think it makes sense because of the fact that the way we've been building around Derek Carr, we're trying to get at one point we got him receivers, then we changed to running, whatever we wanted to do. None of that's really worked out. I think what the Raiders need to do is they need to rebuild. Now, I'm not saying a full rebuild, get rid of everybody. I shouldn't even say rebuild. I think we need to retool our team. I think we need to shift the way we're building this team. Yeah. I think Gus Bradley has a good eye for talent, right? I think Gus Bradley's done a good job. And I think if you let Gus Bradley make the decisions on the defense side of the ball, he will find good players. Yes. He did that for the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? He built that Jaguars team that went into the playoffs, that led that team into the playoffs. I think what the Raiders should do is let Gus Bradley make the decisions, shift our cap from the offense to the defense. So if that means we trade Darren Waller, so be it, right? But to be able to do all that, we also have to not pay Derek Carr what he wants, right? Because you have to pay guys like Max and Yannick Ngakoue, among other guys. I think what the Raiders should do is start over on the quarterback, get a new quarterback that wants 5, 6, 7 million, whatever in cap, whatever a rookie quarterback gets paid. That way, what happens is you save that 30 million or whatever, and you can invest that on the defense side of the ball. And I think from there, you can you can build the defense and you can go the defensive route, because I don't think the Raiders trying to build an offense around Derek Carr and not having that defense in place to really support him, in my opinion, we're never going to win that way, because I truly believe that Derek Carr has to have a top tier defense to win, as do a lot of quarterbacks, right? I'm not saying Derek Carr is the only one. But to put a lot of players around Derek on the offense side of the ball, that takes away cap from the defensive side of the ball, right? We can never build that defense if we shift that cap to the offense. So an example is, before this season started, what did we do, right? We got rid of Rodney Hudson, we got rid of Gabe Jackson, we got rid of Trent Brown. And the hope is we're taking all that cap and investing it on the defense. And the defense has gone better, right? You know this, and I know this. I don't care what the stats say. The stats, they don't matter, right? 3 games have skewed the entire points per game stat for the Raiders. You minus those 3 games, and we're a top 13 defense in points per game, right? Our defense is better this year than it has been. And that's because we shifted cap from the offense to the defense. But what's happening now is our offense isn't doing what it was doing last year. We don't have the same protection. We don't have the same playmaking abilities, right? We're just not the same offense as we were last year. And I think a lot of that is because we took away the weapons and the help that Derek Carr had from the offense, and we shifted it to the defense. It's not going to work. Derek Carr has to have a better offensive line. He has to have, and here's the thing, right?
I don't think it's Derek Carr that needs a better line. I think it's Jacobs that does, and Drake that does.
I think we need to let Jacobs, because we need to get rid of Jacob too, man.
Personally, because if we say I think Carr needs a better offensive line to be successful, well, he's kind of already successful. If we were able to run better, we'd be even more successful, right? Yeah, so yeah. I think that's what translates. And like I said earlier, we score too fast, and that right there also is something I think that needs to take. Because think about it, what weapons did we lose really on offense?
We lost Aguilar, which is the only real weapon.
That's the only thing.
And we got better though. We got Kenny and Drake. We lost Henry Ruggs now. We lost Ruggs now.
Yeah, we lost Ruggs now, but Aguilar, he's getting $15 million, right? On another team that we're talking about.
I think he's getting 13. I think he's signed a 2 year 26.
He's getting more than 10 mil, right? He's getting more than 10 mil on the Patriots, the team that we're.
But the Patriots have a rookie quarterback, right? So they can pay Aguilar, right? Because they have a rookie quarterback.
But then also, like I said, though, he's having not even close to a good year as he did last year, right? But my point is, my point is, though, you say, we shift the money to the defense, which I think we really didn't do. I don't think we shifted the money to the defense at all. We didn't plan on getting rid of Rodney Hudson or Gabe Jackson. So in my mind, that didn't add to the defense. So we didn't get rid of Rodney Hudson and get $12 million to go use that to pay Yannick and then get another Yannick, right? No, we didn't get it back.
Well, here, real quick. Let me clarify that really quickly. You are right? Like, we didn't get the $12 million today, but we are saving money next year, and we've already extended some guys going into next year, right? And we can extend guys after this year because we've already made that roster move, right? Yeah. So although we didn't save money today, we have already extended guys for next year, right? Like Andre James.
Yeah, so we're using money from the future to we're just pushing the contract out, and But my point is we weren't shifting money though.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like we didn't get money to really use. That's what I'm saying. So it's I don't really see where we got money from the offensive side of the ball to say, okay, we're going to use this money to go on the defense. I think Gabe Jackson, we saved money because we cut him and got 9 or something.
And Trent, we saved 14 from Trent.
And Trent. So Trent Brown, I agree. We were going to cut him anyways. Gabe Jackson, if we cut him, okay, I get it. But then Rodney, it was like, dang, you take that shot. Okay, you saved the money from Trent Brown, which was already a horrible contract. I wouldn't have done that. We were at this point. We're trying to backtrack when we're doing certain stuff. Right. Yeah. When the sole reason we're letting go of Trent Brown is because we're paying him so much and because he's not producing. Yeah. That is on the organization.
Yeah.
We didn't have to pay Trent Brown. I don't think we needed a guy as good as Trent Brown, as they were saying. We could have got someone way cheaper and used the money right there to go max out a freaking Khalil Mack or something, right?
Yeah.
But we didn't do that. And this is the problems that we're having. We can't have a balance. Right now, I think the salary is balanced. I think it's 50-50, like almost right down the middle when it comes to salary. So even then, we're still 50-50. The only thing producing on the offensive side of the ball is the pass game, right? We didn't really lose. And it's funny because the only talent we lost was a wide receiver. So why would the run game get worse if we also added a running back? So then that right there just tells you, okay, we lose the best receiver we had, but our passing is still high or still good. We add another good running back, but our run went from top 10 to worse than 30th, right? So I don't know. I'm trying to figure what's that.
You're saying the passing's maybe better than last year, and I disagree with it.
No, I'm not saying the passing's better than last year. I'm saying the passing is still producing.
I don't think so. Not at the same level. And I say that because we're like we're like 5 of, I think, like 21 or something on third downs in our 3 losses: Giants, Chiefs, Bengals, right? I'm not saying that's 100% on Derek Carr, but I'm just saying, like, we're 5 of 21 on third downs. Derek Carr's touchdown to interception ratio over those 3 games, I can tell you right now, was he had 1 touchdown, 3, 4. He had 4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions in those 3 losses, right? So Derek Carr has 4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions in those games. Our offense isn't picking up those first downs. So even though, statistically, maybe in yards, we're playing as we were last year, we're not getting points. We're not continuing to drive downfield. There's so much more than to say that, because we're not a better offense than last year.
We're not. So that's that's my thing. I didn't say we're better offense. I'm saying we are still producing in the passing game, but we're not producing in the run game. But the only talent we lost was the best receiver we had. And not only that, we also lost the best receiver we had this year. Yeah, arguably Renfro, Ruggs, whatever you want to say.
We also lost Ruggs. We also lost our coach.
But what is the excuse for the running game?
So here's the thing, right?
You said we lost talent, right? Yeah. And we shifted the money to the defense. But the only talent we lost on the offense, brother, was a wide receiver. And we're still producing in the pass game. And the 4-for-4 thing, for me, it's like, bro, at a certain point, Carr is going to have a bad game to where he can't carry this team. And you can't tell me, Sanjit, that every quarterback is solely the success of their team is solely upon their quarterback playing a crystal clean, perfect game. And you can't do that, right? You can't do that. I would also argue that, okay, because of Carr, we won so many games. Okay, because of Carr, we lost so many games. But where did our defense win us games? They didn't. Other teams' defenses will. The best of the best quarterbacks. And in every quarterback you could think of right now, yes, they already did. The Packers, Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson, the Mac Jones, Tom Brady, all of those teams, Patrick Mahomes. Because even I posted on IG, when you look at the comparisons, every single game before us, those teams only scored 14 or less points. But to us, they scored 30 or more.
Hold on.
The quarterbacks.
I want to ask you something really quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to ask you. So you're saying that the defense hasn't won us any games, right? Yeah. I want to take you through a couple scenarios. The Baltimore Ravens, we got into overtime, right? With that team, we got down to the 1-yard line. We threw an interception on the 1-yard line. Now all the Ravens had to do was just get downfield and kick a field goal, right? Mm. So the Raiders didn't convert a touchdown, right? They threw an interception in overtime. The Ravens were able to get back down to about the 40-yard line, and then the Raiders defense forced a fumble, and then we were able to score and win the game at that point, right? So the defense, you can argue, won us that game, right? At least I
wouldn't say that, because you have to think about how the game went. We were already scoring so many points at that point. The defense should not let the offense score. So you're saying every game that you can't – you see what I'm saying? So, like, this is an example. Someone tried to tell me against the Cowboys, because I can't remember that far back to the Ravens game.
Yeah.
They said, oh, well, the defense stepped up and stopped them in overtime, so we were able to get the ball. We were up the whole damn game. What do you mean? There should have never been overtime. We were up by 8 points with 3 minutes left. They go score a touchdown, a 2-point conversion, and then we go score a field goal, and then you let them go score a field goal also to go to overtime. So at that point, the defense cannot win us the game.
And I agree. I think the offense won us the game against the Cowboys.
And then
I agree with that.
Even in overtime, Dak Prescott misses a throw. We didn't make a play. He just missed the throw in overtime.
Yep.
Then they had to punt it. Then we got the ball, and then we put up points. So I can't remember too far back from the Ravens game. I know we played a good game because Derek Carr was just playing pretty good. He was playing pretty good football. And at that point, to me, you just can't say the defense winning the game. A defense winning the game for me would be us putting up 13, 14 points and us winning. That's the defense winning it for us. That's what I would say. You can't score 30 plus points and then have the defense win it for you. That's inexcusable.
Okay, let me ask you about the Steelers game. All right, we scored 26, so the offense did their job, but the Steelers only scored 17. So you can argue the defense also did their job, right?
Okay, that right there, what I would say, the defense did their job.
Yeah.
But we also did it as the offense. So that's a good team win. That's probably the best combined game we played as a team. It wasn't too much of a close game. They tried to get back into it. The defense stopped them. The offense held on to the ball. I mean, that's how games should be across the board.
Yep.
But it's not. And see how the defense stopped the Steelers in the fourth quarter in that game? They haven't done that consistently. See what I'm saying? Even then, that's still with barely any run game.
Do you think this defense, because I do agree with what you're saying, you're making valid points. Do you think that this defense, obviously not this year, but do you think the guys that we have on the defense of the ball could be built into a shutdown defense, a top-tier defense?
Yeah, most definitely. I don't think this year was like, for me, like I said, the beginning of the season, 9-8, 10-7 with the wild card spot. People were like, no, I don't think so. You're going to have to win more games to get a wild card spot or even be close because of our division, blah, blah. I'm like, that's the point. We're not going to win that many games, or other teams won't win that many games because our division's tough.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the same anymore. Everybody's built differently now. People are starting to build. But with us, we started losing talent during the season and losing our head coach and stuff like that. And I didn't even think we were ready this year. Like, we weren't even close to compared to other teams. And I didn't think we were ready. So with that right there, I'm like, okay, I think we'll have a decent season. We'll be getting better. But next year would be, in 2022, would be the year. That would be the year we stack up and do our thing. And because we're just getting primed right now.
Yeah, it'll be interesting what the Raiders do, because in my opinion, like I like Mike Mayock, right? I don't know if it was John Gruden making the decisions, but whoever made the decisions has done a terrible job. And that makes me feel like maybe we shouldn't keep Mike Mayock, right? Maybe Mike Mayock was, because I do understand, right? Nate Hobbs, good find, right? But you can also argue that was Gus Bradley.
Yeah.
I just don't know, like, if the Raiders should continue with what we have right now, right? Because I've seen what Mayock and Gruden did the past 3 to 4 years. They've done a terrible job. Terrible job. And I'm not saying that, like, the team is terrible, because we're a pretty well-built team, right? At least we're in a good spot for maybe, just retooling and then getting into it next year. But in terms of draft, right, draft is what makes a team good or trash. And our draft is why this Raiders not as good as they can be, right? Because Yannick Ngakoue was a free agent. Casey Hayward was a free agent. These are guys that we brought into the team off the street, right? And those are guys that have really impacted this team. Guys that should have impacted this team is guys like Cleveland Farrell, Damon Arnett, Alex Leatherwood this year, among other guys. Those are the guys that should have been leading the team.
Arnett, Josh Jacobs, Ruggs.
Absolutely. And the thing is, we don't have any of those guys having an impact for this team, right? And I feel like you have to, at some point, make the decision to move on from the GM. And again, I know maybe Mike Mayock's a good GM, maybe he's not, maybe he's a good eye for talent, but he hasn't proven it, right? And again, if it was John Gruden making decisions, great, but you got to still kind of put that blame on Mike Mayock, right? John Gruden coaches. He watches every team before the game. He doesn't have 100 hours free every week to go watch film. That's Mike Mayock and his scouting department's job.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just crazy with where the Raiders currently are and where I feel like we could go, because I don't think Rich Bisaccia is the coach, which also means that if you bring in a new
way.
coach,
If he's the coach, bro, I'll go down there myself and tell him to fire him. That's ridiculous.
Well, the thing is Gus Bradley might not be here then, right? If we bring in a new coaching staff, Gus Bradley might be gone, which is interesting, because then is Yannick Ngakoue going to leave? Is Casey Hayward going to leave? Right?
Yeah.
What do the Raiders do, right? it's gonna be interesting, man.
It's gonna be the thing is, we need to bring in, if we do whatever we do, we need to bring somebody in that has player relationships. It's that simple.
Yeah.
We need a guy that's popular, people want to be around, people want to play with, people that know him, like him. It's that simple. Gus Bradley proved it this year to us. That's the only way we're able to bring in anybody for that defense. Like,
Yeah.
we were not able to bring in anybody. Then all of a sudden we get Casey Hayward, Yannick, Perriman, Teamer, even Faison. We're just able to bring in all these different guys, whether they're low, not that very good, or, Yannick, Casey Hayward playing a little bit better. Perriman's playing well. These three guys came because of Gus Bradley.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of coach we need. We need a coach that has player relations. That's why I kind of wanted to go towards the Byron Leftwich kind of thing, because he knows a lot of superstars. A lot of people are probably going to want to play with this guy. A lot of people are going to want to come around him. So that's what kind of sells me towards Leftwich. The only thing is his coaching. He has Arians, he has Tom Brady, so it's kind of hard to gauge his performance. But not to go too far down that rabbit hole, we have to do something. Rich Bisaccia gotta go. I don't care if he makes the playoffs. I don't care. I don't care about none of that. Rich Bisaccia gotta go. He is not the coach. He is not the head coach of the future.
Yeah.
I hope not.
He's done a terrible job at times, man. Like mismanaging the game. He has to go, man. It doesn't make sense.
His time management is questionable. Like, I don't know. Maybe they stopped running time management drills at practice or something, but they need to start doing that again so he can understand, like, 2-minute warning's about to come. When do I call a timeout? When not to? You know what I mean? Should I just not? You know what I mean? Go for it here. Should I just knee it and go into halftime? Stuff like that. At the end of the game, stuff like what happened with that penalty? Were we going to actually snap the ball? We're against the Cowboys. It was a 2-minute warning. Like, were we going to actually snap the ball, or was that penalty for no reason? So what was that all about?
Yeah, it's crazy because the Raiders are in a certain spot where our coaching needs to be top tier for us to get these wins, right? And Bisaccia's he's made a ton of bad decisions, in my opinion. But Van Guy here left a $20 super chat. Huge shout out to you. I really appreciate it. You make a good point. He's saying that every quarterback has bad games this year. No quarterback is consistent. Brady is an example. He had a bad stretch. Our defense is good this year, but not good enough to make any game changing turnover to seal the game. They do just enough. And I agree. Our defense is not top tier. It's not there, right? And again, also I want just real quick, I want to apologize to anybody where if I missed your super chat. The comments have been going really quickly, and with StreamYard, the platform we use, if your super chat disappears pretty quickly, the comments go by pretty quickly. So I apologize. Cool Zay 1995. You said I missed your super chat.
Yeah,
I will refund you.
Cool Zay said Matt Corral is a stud from Ole Miss to look at.
Yeah, I got to watch his film, man. The only guy I've watched is the Liberty quarterback, Malik Willis, which was a super chat that was earlier. I would not take him, honestly. I think the super chat says something about, is he the next Lamar Jackson? I don't think he is. I think Lamar Jackson's one of one. I think the guy that's close to Lamar Jackson is their backup quarterback. I don't know his name on the top of my head, but that guy's super, super quick. Malik Willis isn't as quick as Lamar, right? But yeah, man, it's going to be interesting. Let me ask you this, man. Do you think the Raiders can beat the Washington football team?
Yes. Yeah. Without a doubt. Yeah.
Now, they're obviously without Chase Young, right? Leg injury. He's out, I think, for the rest of the year. They're also potentially without some other players on the offense side of the ball. But the Raiders are also without Darren Waller. I don't know if you saw the news this morning, but he's out. He's out of the game. So it'll be Foster Moreau going forward. What do you think about that? Do you think with Darren Waller being out, do you think it's going to have an impact for the Raiders? Deshaun Jackson should play. I think he did practice today too, so he should be good. What do you think? You think that's going to impact the offense? Because, in my opinion, I think the Washington football team still has a good defense.
Yeah. I think they'll be. I think their defense is okay. I think their team all around is okay. With Young going out, is Sweat also hurt?
Montez, I'm not sure.
I heard something about Montez Sweat as well. Collins is out. I think Collins, Sweat, and Chase Young are out, but I'm not 100% sure on Sweat. I think we'll be okay though. We've seen Carr and this offense go without Waller before. Yeah. I don't even really want to care about that, man. I want to see our run game start to go.
Yeah.
You know, I know we talk a lot about Carr. I know we talk about, is this because of Carr? Is this because of that? I like to talk about the run game because that's something you can't blame Carr on. And,
Yeah.
and that's why I like to hound on it because it just goes to show that there's holes in this team and our run game has to start going. So I want to see our run game start going against Washington, man. Especially if those guys are out, we got to get the run game going. There's no excuse for it. If we could pass the ball, we damn sure need to be able to run the ball, especially if we got a running back in the first round and we're paying Drake. No excuses.
Absolutely.
I just don't. Yeah, I don't like. I don't like seeing that. It frustrates me. That's what our identity was and supposed to be.
Yeah.
And it's embarrassing at the end of the day. It's just kind of embarrassing, especially when you see a guy like Taylor out there going crazy. He wasn't a first round pick. Najee Harris can catch a ball pretty well. Jacobs can't drop. I think Jacobs dropping that pass against Cowboys did it for me. And ever since then, I've just been critical of him.
That was a horrible drop.
Because he's a first round guy. And it's kind of and you're basically saying he's one dimensional when you bring in Drake. So you drafted a one dimensional running back in the first round and still go sign Drake. And that for me just did it. And he dropped that pass. And I'm like, yeah, we screwed up. So we basically traded Khalil Mack for Josh Jacobs at the end of the day. And that is a terrible, terrible trade. So and cash, you could say.
Cash.
So we need to get that run game going.
Thing, though, right? Is the cash, the cap space
for sure. Yeah. So that's why I had to add that. But we have to get the run game going. And people want to talk about the playoffs and stuff. This is why the run game has to go. Can you imagine? And I said this before, but can you imagine going into the playoffs and playing on the East Coast in what would it be? Late December, January? Probably not January, but and not having a run game or style defense.
Yep.
You're not going to be able to sling the ball all over the place if you go to New England in late December. If you go to Cincinnati late December. If you go to Buffalo late December. I don't care. Baltimore. It doesn't matter. It's not going to be nice if you can't run the ball and have a style defense. So, even Denver, if we had to play, if something, I'm just saying this stuff right here is going to bite us, and I think people need to really realize not having a run game is going to be crucial. It's going to be crucial.
Yeah. I mean, the hope is if we get into the playoffs, the O-line clicks by then, right? The O-line's able to open up some more holes and stuff like that. I've been talking to some players and I've been asking a little bit about Brandon Parker and stuff like that. And some players are upset, man. They're like, we don't understand why someone like Brandon Parker continues to play when he struggled more at right tackle than, in my opinion, Alex Leatherwood did. And I would give Alex Leatherwood more room because he was a rookie.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense that like Tom Cable wants to continue rolling with someone like Brandon Parker when he's struggling so much. He averages like 1.5 penalties a game. Like it doesn't make sense,
I think it's Tom Cable, man.
It is. Absolutely.
It's all Tom Cable. His personality, the way he is. I think without having a Gruden there, Tom Cable probably feels kind of more. Tom Cable has an alpha personality. He's punching people in the face. So, Greg Olson's not really like that. He's a lot more chill, laid back. He doesn't mind taking that back seat spot. So I don't know if there's a thing going on between Olson and Cable or whatever, or maybe I don't know. But
Olson better watch out, man.
Yeah,
Cable's known to throwing some punches.
You know what I mean? So honestly, I don't know what's going on with that. I think Brandon Parker is the only liability on the offensive line and the only person I don't give space to, and that's why I've been so critical of Tom Cable lately.
Yep.
These are all guys he drafted. These are all guys that's been with us. Miller, James, and Parker have all been with us.
Yep.
So if there's any doubt in this offensive line, it's because it's Tom Cable's fault. You shouldn't have to pay guys $10 million a year or more and then be proven veterans before even coming here to have a good offensive line. You should be able to develop one with those. You got 2 first-round draft picks on that line. Get it done at this point. Just get the job done. Like, come on.
Now, on the defense side of the ball, do you think Divine Diablo should be playing more, especially if Jonathan Abrams struggles? Or because I look at it like if he's not playing, there's probably a reason why he's not playing.
I didn't like Diablo that much coming out of college. He was cool. He got size.
Yeah, he got size. Yeah,
and I said this, and I know a lot of people got on me because I did the tape. And I said, my biggest thing was he couldn't get off blocks, and they're college tight ends.
Yeah.
You can't get off a college tight end. You want to play linebacker in the NFL? it's gonna be tough. I'm not an NFL athlete, but I know that.
That's a great point you make, right? Because here's the thing: people kill Jonathan Abram. They're like, oh, he can't cover, he can't do this. But what they never talk about is his strengths. He blows by blockers. You look at that 2-point conversion. It was him that blew that play up, right? I think against the Cowboys, where he stopped that 2-point conversion. Things like that. He does that week in and week out. And people always want to say, well, it's the touchdowns that really get to him. Jonathan Abram's basically a linebacker, right, for the Raiders. I'm pretty sure there's other guys that allow more touchdowns. Like Brandon Faison has allowed more touchdowns this year than Abram, and Abram started the entire season. Faison came in 3 or 4 weeks ago. But Dick Vitale also makes a good point. I mean, look at our first 3-round players that are gone or not playing, right? Coons, Diablo, Ruggs, Arnett, Bowden, Muse, Farrell, Haw, Key, Conley. That's game changer right there, man. That's really, really game changer. And this is why the Raiders,
CD Lamb.
This is why they continue to suck. Carr. And that's not even counting the players we missed on, right? It's mind boggling to me where the Raiders currently are with their team, right? Shout out to you, Cruz. Cruz just became a member today, so shout out to you. I don't know if I did that earlier in the video, but you said that Abram leads safeties with tackles, and that's a fact, man. Abram leads the league.
He's second now. He's second.
So it's
Derwin James is first.
Derwin, which is the Raiders passed on him.
That's a heartbreaker right there. I wanted Derwin James and Kenneth Murray. What did the Chargers do? And I liked Herbert, and they get all 3. I don't know what it is about them.
I mean, if we swap those 3 for the 3 that we took, I mean, we're much better, right,
bro?
Yeah, man. Hey, I really appreciate you coming on. Well, we're approaching 2 hours here. So I'm gonna hop off here. Gotta get back to work. But I really appreciate you coming on. If you guys are not subscribed to Raid the Tape, go check his YouTube channel out. It's Raid RAID the Tape. And I'll be on his channel for the pregame against the Washington football team. It'll be at 12 Pacific Standard Time. And we're gonna be talking it up, man. We're gonna talk about the Washington football team. So I'm excited for that, man.
Yeah, everybody asking about my hat. It's from Residency. It's a website called Residency. Go ahead, check it out. I know a lot of people have been looking for this thing. It's hard to find, but for sure, it's called Residency. But appreciate you having me on, man. Anytime, bro. Anytime. Love talking to you about Raiders football content, and because you one of the everybody knows you one of the smartest dudes out here. So it's like, I gotta see what we talk about over here.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate everyone that was here. We had over 400 people live here. So shout out to all of you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it, man. And we'll be going live definitely more often. So hit that thumbs up button. We'll see you guys next time with another video.